In a recent Doctor Who episode, The Pilot, new companion Bill asked an interesting question. Why is the TARDIS named for an acronym that probably only works in English? Is it just a huge stroke of luck? That seems unlikely. Being the huge nerd I am, I decided to put hours of brainpower and all my intimate Doctor Who knowledge into answering that question. In theory, there's actually a simple thing to answer as well. See, TARDIS isn't the official name for a time capsule, or TT capsule as it's sometimes called. It was actually coined by the Doctor's granddaughter Susan, whilst they were living on Earth all the way back in An Unearthly Child in 1963.
The TARDIS can go anywhere.
TARDIS? I don't understand you, Susan.
Well, I made up the name TARDIS from the initials, time and relative dimension in space.
We can assume therefore that Susan named it in English because they were in England, on Earth, speaking to human beings from England at the time. Of course, then we start to run into issues. There's the problem of that only being one possible account of two. See, in the Telos novella Time and Relative, about the Doctor and Susan's time on Earth pre An Unearthly Child, Susan referred to the TARDIS as the box, meaning she named it whilst they were on Earth. But in the Big Finish audio at the beginning about the Doctor and Susan's adventures pre An Unearthly Child in space, Susan names it on her first ride in the TARDIS.
This was a ship of time and relative dimensions. A TARD, but that sounded wrong until I remembered the in space bit. So I thought I'd call it a TARDIS. Our TARDIS.
But the Doctor says it was already called that, but she says she doesn't believe him and still claims she coined it in An Unearthly Child. My head is starting to hurt already. For now, I'm going to ignore Big Finish and everything is solved, right? Well, no. Doctor Who continuity is a big scary mess, and the problem now is, why do other Time Lords call them TARDISes? See, the Doctor isn't the only person in the universe with a TARDIS, there are hundreds of them belonging to other Time Lords. And whilst they sometimes call them time capsules, they just as often call them TARDISes. A couple of suggestions have been made. In the Discontinuity Guide written by Paul Cornell, Martin Day and Keith Topping, all writers of various Doctor Who productions, including maybe the best episode of David Tennant's tenure as the Doctor, is suggesting that Susan's naming of the TARDIS just caught on Gallifreyan culture. Of course, this doesn't explain why it was named in English, unless Susan had an affinity for the language out of the billions that exist throughout all of time and space. On top of that, in An Unearthly Child, the 8th Doctor audio adventure, is established Susan never went back to Gallifrey after the Doctor left her on Earth. And as most versions of events have her naming it after she and the Doctor left Gallifrey, it still doesn't add up. Unless the Time Lords watch Doctor Who, which is actually kind of plausible, because it does exist in the Doctor Who universe. Another explanation is in the 7th Doctor Virgin New Adventure Lungbarrow. It is implied that Susan mentioned the name TARDIS to the Other, the mysterious third founder of Time Lord Society who was later reincarnated as the Doctor. But that's a whole other thing we're not getting into right now. She does name it the TARDIS before they leave Gallifrey in this version, but this still raises the same problem as the other explanation, whilst also contradicting our other explanations for the naming of the TARDIS. This is why sometimes Doctor Who writers make continuity mistakes, guys. I feel like we go too hard on them. So, seeing as Doctor Who is basically pick your own continuity, I've decided to reject these realities and substitute my own. This is all self-serving fandom wank from now on, so if you don't want that, just turn off your computer. Just hit that power button and turn it right off. My explanation is, they don't call them TARDISes. Let me explain. We, the viewer of Doctor Who, sorta kinda exist within the universe of Doctor Who in some strange metaphysical way. For example, in Blink, weeping angels don't move when we, the audience, are looking at them, but people in the story aren't looking at them. Let's ignore for now that they do in other stories because I want to wrap this video up before Christmas. Also, sometimes the Doctor looks directly into the camera and wishes us Happy Christmas or smirks or whatever, so I think that counts. So therefore we, the audience, are translated for by the TARDIS. When the TARDIS isn't translating something for the Doctor or his companions, it doesn't translate for us. For example, in the two-parter The Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit, during the David Tennant era, when there were strange ancient runes even the TARDIS couldn't translate, they weren't translated for us, the audience. In the 10th Doctor's first episode, The Christmas Invasion, when the Doctor is comatose, the Sycorax speak in whatever language they speak. And much like the characters in the show, we can't understand it. And the English term for a TARDIS is, well, a TARDIS. Before Susan coined it, no one needed to say it in English. So when Susan named it the TARDIS said, okay, cool, that's the English word for me, and has ever since then translated it as such. Whenever a Time Lord says TARDIS, They're actually saying some gibberish Gallifreyan word that is handily translated for us by the TARDIS. And everyone else just calls it the TARDIS because that's what they got told to call it by the Doctor. Of course, all of that is just random elements of a 50-year-old TV show pulled together and forced to make sense by a fan. But isn't that what basically all of Doctor Who post-1966 is? Anyway, Moffat, I'll take my check and no prize in the post. And if on your way out you want to wave your magic wand and make this canon or hire me to write for Doctor Who, you go for it. Thank you all for watching, I hope you enjoyed this video and were in some way informed by it. If you have any weird nerdy questions about obscure expanded universe stuff you'd like answered by me, leave a comment. Don't forget to subscribe for more great content, and have a nice day.